We're spending this time going through the teachings of 13th century Zen teacher Eihei Dogen, and our founder of the Soto school, our family style here in this temple. And one by one, we're going through the collections of fascicles and teachings called Shobo Genzo, the Treasury of the True Dharma Eye. Today is 39. Shisho. I had to remind myself, okay, how many times are you going to say shisho in your talk? But the Zoto Zen text translates shisho as the inheritance certificate, and Kaz Tanahashi translates shisho. Shisho shells. Just comes right up. Shisho as document of heritage. So before stepping into this fascicle, I think a little bit more background may be helpful, I hope. So Dogen became a monk and received the precepts and became a priest in training at the age of 13. He practiced in 2 different temples in Japan before going to China in his early 20s to study and practice and search. And during his time in China, he visited several monasteries and eventually met his teacher, Ru Jing. And he took up study and practice with Ru Jing for about 2 years, towards the end of his 4 years in China. He spent 4 years in China and returned to Japan 1227. So in part of this fascicle, Dogen recounts his experience of his temple visits and meetings with teachers, specifically related to the opportunities for him that arose to view a document of heritage, or shisho, which he would later receive in Dharma transmission from his teacher, Ru Jing, before he left China. So we have a lot of ceremonies here that we all participate in and see. Dharma transmission is not one of those, in that it's between teacher and student. It's held privately. So Dharma transmission, in short, is a ceremony of entrustment. The teacher's trust in the student's practice, their commitment to continue the teaching, continue the Dharma and practice tradition and lineage, and to share it with others. A passing on of the Dharma, mind to mind. Also an entrustment of the precepts and an entrustment of the lineage. So it's not a certificate of completion by any means. In a way, it's more of a beginning. It's not documentation of special powers or documentation of some exalted state of being, but again, an entrustment passed on through a living relationship. In our school of Soto Zen, the novice priest or priest in training only receives Dharma transmission once and only from one person. You're connected to this person for life. When Dogen received Dharma transmission from Ru Jing entrusted Dogen to teach, to stand upright, and share the Dharma on his own, a great responsibility. And although he knew he was always being guided by his teacher, he also understood that he had the invisible help of Buddhas and ancestors. as we all do. The Dharma that was transmitted to Dogen was his understanding or realization and his teacher's realization. It was also Shakyamuni Buddha's, all at the same time. And this document of heritage that is received in the ceremony of Dharma transmission and Dogen's viewing of these documents was quite unusual. As I mentioned earlier, unlike the other ceremonies we have here in the temple and many temples around the world, this one is private between teacher and student. And the Shisho, this document of the Dharma transmitted priest, is held privately. I'll read a couple of his descriptions of his visits. Again, this is in his early 20s. When I was in China, I had the opportunity to bow to some documents of heritage. There were various kinds. One day, Wei Yi said, "Old writings worth seeing are treasures of humankind. How many of these have you seen?" I said, "I have seen few." In the footnote in the Soto Zen text, "I have seen few" means I haven't seen any. Then he said, "I have a scroll of old writing. I will show it to you at your convenience." He brought it to me. It was a document of heritage of the Fa-Yan lineage that he had obtained from the articles left behind by an old master. So it was not what Wei Yi had himself received. The document said, "The first ancestor, Mahakashapa, was awakened by Shakyamuni Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha was awakened by Kashapa Buddha. Upon seeing this, I was firmly convinced that there is Dharma heritage between an authentic heir and authentic heir. This was a teaching I had never seen before. At that moment, the Buddha ancestors had invisibly responded to my wish and helped me, a descendant of theirs. I had never been moved so much." So in that moment, I imagine Dogen connecting with the help of the Buddhas and ancestors. And in another visit, Dogen writes, "When Elder Zhang Yue was filling the position of head monk at Mount Tiantong, he showed me a document of heritage of the Yunmen lineage. The name of the teacher giving the document of heritage and the names of some Indian and all Chinese ancestors were written side by side, and below that was the name of the person receiving the document. The name of this new ancestor was directly connected to those of the Buddha ancestors. Therefore, all the names of the more than 40 ancestors from the Tathagata are joined together with the name of the new heir. It was as though each of them had given heritage to their heir. Mahakashapa, Ananda, and others were lined up just as in any other lineage." So in seeing this document, it's like Dogen was seeing all of these hands offering this to this person. did mention that the Shisho is held privately, and there is a picture of Dogen's Shisho that's held at a Heiji. It's a national treasure. So I'm just going to hold it up. You won't be able to see details, but I want you to see just a little bit, and then I can put it out after question and discussion. But it may to you resemble like a flower.
Could you hold it up again?
Yes. Yes. Sorry, Zoom. So we see that it's a circle, and it's this circle that, to look at it closely, it's like, where's the beginning of that line? Where is the end of that line? That's not discernible. And going through each line, so imagine Dogen preparing for his Dharma transmission with his teacher Ryujing, and Ryujing offers him the Shisho, meaning, here is my Shisho, now you're going to copy your Shisho. And so making all of these lines and then adding in the middle, there's Shakyamuni Buddha, which you follow the line, and there's the Dharma transmitted priest's name will be there, Mahakashapa Ananda, Ryujing, Eihei Dogen's teacher. And it just keeps looping around and around, or this way, around and around. Go up in the middle with Shakyamuni Buddha and coming back down. So this visual representation of the Dharma going through Dogen from his teacher before, going through to Mahakashapa, then to Ananda. And in Dogen's other visits to temples where he viewed this document, he again on 2 other occasions says, "What a joy it was. It was only possible by the invisible help of Buddha ancestors. I saw it after offering incense and formally bowing to it." And on another occasion he writes, "I said to myself, this event indeed could not have happened without the invisible help of Buddha ancestors. As a foolish man from a remote country, by what fortune have I been able to see a document of heritage once again? Tears wet my sleeves." Maybe, I think, Dogen was so moved by seeing these documents because he, maybe in a way, underestimated or was just beginning to understand in some way the extent to which he was receiving support and the responsibility entrusted to the holder of such a document. In our Soto Zen tradition, like Dogen, there are Dharma holders who have been entrusted with this vertical transmission represented through the document of heritage. This direct, straight-through passing of the Dharma from teacher to student, generation after generation, with the responsibility of not allowing the line of succession to be broken. And also in our tradition, the horizontal transmission, the shared communal transmission of Dharma. The Dharma flowing like a river through all things, through the Sangha, and the sharing of Buddha nature in all things, not confined to a single line. And just as Dogen was not on his own, we are not practicing alone or on our own. Also in this writing, Dogen writes, since a Buddha receives Dharma from a Buddha, the Buddha way is thoroughly experienced by a Buddha and a Buddha. There is no moment of the way without a Buddha and a Buddha. For example, rocks inherit from rocks, jewels inherit from jewels. When a chrysanthemum inherits from a chrysanthemum, and a pine gives the seal of realization to a pine, the preceding chrysanthemum is one with the following chrysanthemum, and the preceding pine is one with the following pine. So in reading this, I think, though each thing is specific, a Buddha must include everything. Nothing without Buddha nature. No moment without Buddha nature. Beaming and bouncing all around in an inconceivable way. All things coming up together and at the same time, yet behaving differently. The rock being the rock, the chrysanthemum being the chrysanthemum. Each person expresses the Dharma in a unique way, as a unique being. But it is also all the same Dharma, an expression of the truth in the Buddha's teaching. Each transmission of the Dharma simultaneously unique and universal, constantly evolving and changing, while also being continuous and consistent. So the awakening of the Buddhas and ancestors passes through human hearts, passes through rocks and jewels, grass tiles, pebbles, chrysanthemums, pines. And one of the parts of this that is really churning for me is that when Dogen returns to Japan after his time in China, viewing all of these documents, receiving Dharma transmission from his teacher, the first thing he writes is Fukan Zazengi, which we chanted this morning. And the very end of Fukan Zazengi, Dogen says, "Please, honored followers of Zen, long accustomed to groping for the elephant, do not be suspicious of the true dragon. Devote your energies to a way that directly indicates the absolute. Revere the person of complete attainment who is beyond all human agency. Gain accord with the enlightenment of the Buddhas. Succeed to the legitimate lineage of the ancestor Samadhi. Constantly perform in such a manner, and you are assured of being a person such as they. Your treasure store will open of itself, and you will use it at will. So these instructions and encouragement to practice sitting, to position our body and mind to open to this transmission, to open to the Dharma, to give up wandering around in our minds, to be encouraged to be fully ourselves. And not having to pin down what the answer is to being fully ourselves, but to keep returning to that over and over and over again.